Give it up for the graduates one more time. Who remembers their high school graduation? Raise your hand. Mine was 4 or 5 something hours long. It was unbearably awesome. But I was excited to be done. It was really good. I just want to reintroduce myself. My name is Jared. My wife Stephanie and I are the youth pastors here at PNC. And our son, Mason, just turned 1 just less than 2 weeks ago, so I thought I would share a picture with you. Oh, there it is. Maybe we'll use this when he graduates. I know that Stephanie is already having a hard time, and the more I talk about it, I think the better it gets. No, that's not how it works. Well, this is one of my favorite Sunday mornings, to get to celebrate the achievements of what these young people have accomplished, but even more so, I'm excited about the future that they have and what God has in store for them as they move forward in their lives and they decide which direction that God is going to take them. And in the spirit of talking about God's direction, I have a question for us, and that question is this: are you living your life with a Y? Imagine if life was spelled L-Y-F-E instead of L-I-F-E. Are you living your life with a Y, or are you simply just living your life with an I? I believe that there's a lot of luck in life. I think that people get lucky left and right all the time, but I don't believe that luck holds any eternal value. So even though people get lucky and that can be exciting, it really isn't worth anything that matters. Because if luck had eternal value, then what would be the point? So when we put our trust in God and when we seek God, we can get lucky and be excited about it. But when we trust God and we seek what God has in store for us, we get to experience the fruit of what he has in store for us, and that is an exciting thing. Our why needs to become the foundation of our lives. It needs to be the foundation of everything that we do. If we do things outside of our why, then it's going to be one of 2 outcomes. The first is that we realize that we wasted time. And none of us like to waste time. If you do, okay, I get it, but none of us like to realize, oh shoot, I just wasted a bunch of time. The other thing, if we do something that is outside of our why, is we realize that maybe our why needs to change in the first place. Maybe what we thought was our why now needs to become something different, to be more in line with what we're actually feeling and what we're actually thinking. If you don't take the time to establish your why, the reason why you want to live your life and do the things that you do, then you really do leave it up to luck to decide what your life will be like. And if you leave it up to luck, your life then just simply becomes a gamble. You might be okay with that and just see what comes out, and that might be exciting. But what's even better is when we seek God and we see what he has in store for us and the plans that he wants to bring to fruition in our lives. Has anyone here ever been to Miracle Ranch? It's the camp that we take our kids and our junior hires to. Hands high and proud. Miracle Ranch. Well, I love Miracle Ranch and I love junior high camp, but there's a particular activity there that terrifies me, and that's called the leap of faith. If you've been there, you might walk through this forested area and come to this little clearing, and just in this little clearing, you'll see this massive tree. This massive tree just juts straight up, and then there's these ancient 2x4 boards that are just nailed right into that tree. And those ancient 2x4 boards lead right up to a platform that's about 100 feet high in the air. And your goal is to climb those rickety boards and to stand on that platform, which who knows when that was built, and jump off and grab onto a handle. But if you miss the handle, you die. No, I'm just kidding, you don't die. Send your kids to camp, it's fun. If you miss the handle, if you get the handle, it's okay, you're going to be safe. There's a harness that catches you, and then the seasonal camp staff below lowers you down safely to the ground. So the objective is to jump off of this platform and trust, have faith in the fact that the seasonal the camp staff, who's probably 18, 19, maybe 20-year-old, they're going to lower you down safely to the ground. So you can trust the seasonal camp staff if you'd like. They've done a good job, though. It's been good. I like to watch and only watch. But I can't believe how many kids, even little kids, all the way up to big kids, get so excited about the idea of climbing up that tree and jumping off of that platform. If you're that person or you've done it and you've loved it, please raise your hand. I just need to see what my crowd looks like this morning. Oh, okay. Well, raise your hand if you're the more wise group of people that choose to keep your feet on the ground. Yes. Okay, we got a 50-50 split. That's good. I am that wise person who likes to stay put and watch the foolishly brave people climb up that ladder, get on that platform, jump for whatever exciting reason they think that they have, and then land on the ground and you're just back where you started. So I don't quite understand it, but apparently it's fun and apparently it's cool, and so that's why they have it, and that's why people like to do it. Well, now you understand a little bit about my perspective on this activity that is called the leap. And I once was at junior high camp a couple summers ago, and I had signed our group up, because I'm a good group leader, I signed our group up for a time slot to go to the Leap of Faith. They kept telling me, I want to do the Leap of Faith, I want to do paintball, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I was like, well, what about like this instead of the Leap of Faith? And then no, that didn't fly. They want to do the Leap of Faith. So sign up, and then it becomes our scheduled time. So before we go, I have to give myself a little bit of a pep talk, and I have to say, listen, you don't need to be scared. I'm talking to myself. Listen, Jared, you don't need to be scared. Because you know that there is no amount of teen pressure that could ever make you go up those rickety old boards nailed into a tree and stand on that platform. You've all experienced peer pressure. Mob teen pressure is worse. And it's intense, and sometimes they say words, and they make you feel small, and you're like, well, maybe I have to prove myself. No, you don't. You don't. Don't let them trick you. So I prepped myself. I have that hardened heart against doing that, and I told God that the only way I would ever do that is if he told me that it would literally bring about salvation for a teen that was there at camp that week. But it had to be audible. It couldn't just be a feeling. It couldn't be a sensing. I needed to hear clearly from God in voice that was going to be the case for me to be willing to risk it to find it worth it. Also, if it was like written in the tree or the dirt or whatever, that would be really good. In the clouds maybe. That would also help me reassure that is what I'm supposed to do. But until that happens, I will always just watch, and I'm completely okay with that. Well, so we take our group to this clearing, and it's a group of junior high boys, and they're all super excited to do this thing, and I don't understand, but okay, I'm a good counselor, so I'm just going to take them, and it's going to be a really good time. Somehow, does anyone know any junior high boys or have known or had kids that were junior high boys? Junior high boys don't really make a lot of sense ever in their brains and how they do things, and somehow they reasoned within 5 seconds of who was going to go when in second and third and fourth and fifth. They had it all civilly, very civilly, they figured this all out. That's how I knew I had a really good cabin of junior high boys. They figured it out very quickly. There were no arguments. This is going to be a great day. This is going in the right direction. Well, so the number one, the kid who was going to go first, we're going to call him Hank, and he was a very, very brave young soul. So Hank is really excited. He got selected to go first. He's not just going to do it. He's going to do it first. So the first step is you have to get your harness on, and the harness is very secure. You put one leg in, the other leg in, then up over the shoulders, you buckle it, you strap it, you cinch it, then you attach yourself to a cable, and you're not going anywhere. You are cinched in, ready to go. So he starts up those pieces of wood on that tree, that ladder is what they call it, I guess, and he's halfway up there, and we're just encouraging, shouting at him, "You're doing a good job, Hank, good job." And he pauses for a second, and we're like, "Oh." And then he keeps going. We're like, "Yeah, Hank, good job, get to that platform." And he does. He gets to that platform, strong and confident. He walks up to the edge. We think he's ready to jump, and he looks down at us, and he's like, "This is a lot higher than I thought it was." And he takes a couple steps back. He gathers himself for a second. We're yelling encouragement. Again, it's 100 feet high in the air, or at least that's how I felt. He gathers himself for a second. We're encouraging him. And then he kind of leans over a little bit, not too much, and he's like, "I can't do it!" And he turns around, sits down on the platform, and hugs the tree with his arms and his legs. As tense as can be, his whole body is wrapped around this tree. We're in a pickle, because I have about 50 minutes and about 12 kids that I need to get through this activity. And Hank went first, so that was good that Hank went first. It would have been nice if he went last, but he went first. And I learned that the only way that Hank can get down is if he jumps. I asked about, well, can he climb down the ladder? No. Can you climb up the ladder? Again, I'm talking to the seasonal camp staff. Can you climb up the ladder and just kind of, nudge him off a little bit? I'm sure he won't care if it means he's going to be down on the ground. Can you? And they said no, there's a liability. I was like, it might be a liability that you have a kid stuck in the tree. Maybe there's priority in these liabilities, and we should consider this. They said, well, after about 6 hours, 6 hours? Oh, after about 6 hours, we can kind of send someone up there and, talk to him face to face. And it's like, oh boy, okay. We got to figure this thing out, and we have to figure out how to get Hank off of that tree. So I was corrected. Last service I said 2 hours. But it's true, it was 3 hours and 15 minutes that Hank was in that tree. And it was 3 hours and 15 minutes that we stood there below watching group come, oh, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to do this, and leave. Neck strained, looking up at that 100-foot high platform, yelling at Hank, you can do it, Hank, you can do it, you're so awesome, it's going to be fine, just jump off, don't even think about it, close your eyes, just start walking, see what happens. Literally, we're trying everything. And I tried bribery, and I'm a pastor. I was going, candy, Hank, beverages, whatever you want from the snack shack. I'll just give you money, just come down. Whatever a junior high boy would want, I was willing to offer if he would just come down off of that tree. But he was not going to come off of that tree. He was calm. He didn't think he was going to die or anything. He just was happy where he was, just sitting up there and being safe because he wasn't going to fall off. He was just going to be completely fine. And the reason why he wanted to do the leap of faith in the first place was because he wanted to conquer a fear that he had. He didn't tell that to us. He didn't tell us he was deathly afraid. He didn't tell us that 3 weeks ago he was at REI and he got stuck climbing up a rock wall. And he was up there for 2 hours. I didn't tell that first service, but that was really true. He didn't tell us any of that. Well, so after the 3 hours or so passed, the dinner bell rang. And my stomach immediately went, because we had done paintball, we had played sports. I let them eat more lunch because they're teenage boys and they're kind of selfish with their meals at camp. And you just accept it. And so I was like, okay, I'm really excited for dinner. It's going to be good. So that dinner bell rings, and I'm hungry. The campers are hungry. Hank up there, he's hungry. The seasonal camp staff, they're hungry. Everybody's hungry. And Hank says, hey, why don't you all just go ahead and go eat? I think that was the dinner bell. And we're like, Hank, we're not going anywhere until you come down. We're not going to go anywhere. And he's like, wait a second. You mean you're not going to go eat dinner if I don't jump? And we were like, yeah, Hank, we're not going to. He's like, it's yakisoba. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, Hank, I've been looking forward to this all day. All day. I'm here for you, bud, but just give me my yakisoba. And we're like, yes, it's the best meal at camp, but we're not going to go anywhere. And something just amazing happened in Hank's mind. He said, well, just give me a minute. I'll be right down. I'm not about to make my friends wait for dinner. And we're like, okay, great, just jump. We're just thinking what's different? Just jump off that platform. We think he's just going to stand up 3 hours later, just stand up and kind of look and be like, no, actually, you guys go to dinner. I'm just going to sit down and hang out with my tree. We thought he might want to just eat the bark and see if that would fill him up. Really, our hope was that he would fall asleep and just kind of fall off. My mind was getting real creative in this situation. But he would not jump for 3 hours, and that dinner bell rang. So the question is, what made the difference? 60 seconds later, after he made that strong declaration that he was going to jump and we were all going to go to dinner, he was on the ground. We were headed to dinner. Our tummies were rumbling and we were excited. And it was a funny story. He's a funny guy, and he loved that there was so much attention on him, and he loved hearing that everyone around camp was talking about the guy that was stuck in a tree for 3 hours. He thought it was hilarious. But what made the difference? How could in just like a split second, he can go from being so scared and unwilling to jump off of that platform, 100-foot high platform, I get it, to then being so willing to go for it and to get down off of that platform? It was because he realized that the idea of negatively impacting his friends, them not being able to go to dinner, was too much of a responsibility for him to bear. He didn't want that for his friends. And so his why went from conquering a fear he had to then doing it for his friends. Hank just surprised us. And I didn't realize it until later. But it took a foundation that was beyond this idea, this cool thing about just conquering a fear. It took a foundation and an idea of like, I'm going to do this for my friends. The value of that why was so much greater than the weight of the fear that he had as he jumped off that platform. The fear was still there. But there was something more valuable that helped him and that drove him to jump off of that platform. When we live our life without a why, or if we live with one that doesn't actually hold that much value to us or matter to us, we struggle to find passion. We struggle to find resolve, and we struggle to find direction and a desire to actually accomplish anything. Who here has ever been in school or at work and you were handed an assignment that you absolutely had zero interest in completing? Anyone? But you had to do it. And so you did it. And you probably didn't give it your best. You probably rushed through it as quick as you could just because you wanted to get it done. And when it was over, the only thing you could think about was how glad you were that it was over. That's how some of us felt about graduating high school. We were just kind of glad it was over. Everyone's excited when they graduate, but not everyone sees the value of that time and the place that it holds in the rest of their life. And the difference is, when you can see that value, that's what helps drive your passion to get it done. And that's what helps make you realize its worth. Did you know that Jesus had a why? When we read scripture, we see Jesus do a lot of miracles. We see him say a lot of profound things. We see him make a lot of decisions that a lot of people around him judge. But I can tell you with complete confidence that there is not one thing that Jesus did that he did not have a why behind it. And he could have, if he wanted to, explained exactly what that why is for that action. Every single moment of his life. People don't always understand why or how his connections related. But that didn't matter to him. What mattered to him was that he was acting out of that why that he had defined and set for himself. So let's look together at one of these examples where Jesus explains his why and how his response connects to it, but then also how the why of the lives of the other people in the story drive their actions. So we're going to read out of the Gospel book of Matthew, chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. And I'm reading from the New Living Translation, and that's what's going to be on the screen. But if you join with me in standing for God's word and the reading of it this morning. Again, this is Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. Then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She's bothering us with all of her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel." But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord. But even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath their master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great, your request is granted," and her daughter was instantly healed. This is the word of God. You may be seated. If you're anything like me, your first reaction to this text is offended that he called this woman a dog. Jesus, geez, calm down. That's kind of rough. Additionally, he's not just calling this woman a dog, he's calling anyone who's not Jewish a dog. And I'm a part of that group. I'm a part of that Gentile group that isn't Jewish, and so I was a little bit offended. But as I thought about it more, and as I read the text more, I came to realize that I don't think that Jesus is trying to offend anyone here, but in fact, he's actually trying to highlight the sinful nature and the sinful hearts of what's going on in the group of his disciples that are there with him. In this passage, we have three involved parties. We have Jesus, his disciples, and the woman. And in verse 24, Jesus reveals to us what his why is. He was sent to help the people of Israel. Now, it goes a little bit deeper than that, because he was sent to help the people of Israel so that they could be a light to the world to transform the rest of the world. He was going to help this group of people so that it could be their mission to then teach and to give forgiveness and to heal the rest of the world, to bring restoration. In verse 22, the woman reveals her why. Her daughter's possessed. She wants her to be healed. She has an agenda. She has motives. She's desperate. She's not Jewish. In fact, she's from a neighboring nation that hates Jewish people and hates the way they live their life. And yet she finds herself in this position, pleading with Jesus amidst this group of disciples who are heckling her. But that doesn't stop her. And that brings us to the all-stars of the text this morning, and that is Jesus' disciples. And in verse 23, we find out what their why is. They are so busy bowing down, or whatever it is the disciples do when they're just hanging out with Jesus and these things happen, that they fail to see that there is a person right in front of them that is broken and hurting and has a need that they believe Jesus can come and help heal and restore. My first question when reading this was why did Jesus not reply to her right away? Why did Jesus just not, really, he saw the need, he knew what he could do, he could have just healed her right there from the get-go. And it took me a little bit, but then I realized that it's explained in what Jesus says he's here to do. Jesus was there. His why was to help the people of Israel. And so I can't help but think that Jesus paused because he wanted to see, he was hoping, he was praying that one of his disciples that were there with him would take up the cause of that woman, that would come to his feet also with her and be begging for the life of her daughter. He was hoping that one of the people of Israel would have got it and would have understood what his teachings were about so far, that they would join with her and be like, Jesus, what are you doing? Heal her. There's a need. Restore, heal, fix. But that didn't happen. She was bold enough. She had a why. She was bold enough to go to Jesus, to stand off the people telling her to go away, and to tell Jesus in the face, you can do this. I'm not Jewish, but I believe you are the God who can heal and restore. And I believe you have the power and the love and the desire to do that in my life. She said, maybe I am a dog, but even the dog deserves the scraps. And those are some heavenly scraps. The sad thing is that group of disciples, they were feasting on the meal that Jesus was providing them, being in his presence, learning from him. And they were so unwilling to share even a scrap. It is really easy to judge the disciples. Jesus makes them look like fools. He holds a mirror up to them to show them, you aren't getting it. There's times in my life where I really, really identify with the woman, and even the woman's daughter. Whether it was my first option or the last thing I came to, the only real option I would come around to realize was that I needed God to work in my life. I needed God's power. I needed his love. I needed something beyond my control to come in and show me that there is a God that is in control and that I can trust in him. But even more so, and I'm sad to say, I can identify with the disciples. I felt that false authority to judge and dismiss. I felt the false security of knowing God and yet failing to obey in those times that he's called me to act. If the worship team would come and join me on the stage. The question this morning that I want you to consider, the question that I want you to take to heart and really, really chew on is, are you living your life with a why? I promise you, it makes an incredible difference on what will happen. If you can stand on a foundation that you've chosen, that you've laid for yourself, and move forward on that and build on that, it will make an incredible difference also if you choose to let your foundation be built with God's help. I have an agenda for you. I don't want you to just choose any why that's out there. I want you to choose a why that has God deeply involved. I want you to choose a why that Jesus would have had for his disciples. I want you to choose the why where you could say, because God worked in my life, transformed my life, because God is always there for me, that is why I want to show love to the world. And that is why I want to make any action be for God and to bring his kingdom to earth. You don't get more than one why, because then you just get to be choosy and you get to justify. But if you have one foundation, you can build strongly on that and you can move forward knowing that God is going to be with you, helping you build upon that and see other people come to know the love of God and what that means, and see their life transformed, and to see this world transformed. Let's worship together, and I want you to ask during this time, what is my why?